Now in the last episode, we removed the front bumper from this S4 and tilted the front end forward. This allowed us a lot more working room, so now we can tackle the drive belts, tensioner, and bearings. Now before you remove the drive belt, always make a diagram. Here's a quick diagram just so you can take a picture and have it, but nonetheless, right here is the supercharger pulley. This is our idler, and all the way right down here on the bottom left, that is the tensioner. So we need to rotate this clockwise. So we'll be using a serpentine belt removal tool, an absolute must-have because a ratchet is just too thick, okay? It won't fit with a ratchet. So in our case, it's a 16mm socket, and as always, I'll have a link of all the tools in the description box below. And this is where the serpentine belt removal tool makes all the difference. Look how tight this is. Incredibly tight. With a ratchet, it just doesn't happen, okay? So let me just grab this on the fastener, turn it clockwise, and you see how it loosens up the belt, okay? And then we can simply remove it from the vehicle. Now, because the S4 is supercharged, it has coolant lines. So antifreeze is running through these lines to cool the supercharger. But the accessory belt is behind these coolant lines. So you'll find a bracket. There's a bracket up here, another bracket on the bottom. Now, because the S4 is almost 12 years old and 182,000 miles, I don't want any fasteners to strip. I have shown this before. Ultimately, what this is, just to show you, it's a liquid, okay? It's a liquid with small metal particles, okay? And what this does, this allows ultimate grip onto the fastener. You don't need a lot, so it does not strip out. So you see how there's some surface rust here on the fastener? So with the drive grip, it really does a fantastic job. Okay. Now this is another must-have, a Craftsman ratcheting screwdriver. So in this case, we have a Torx bit. Because the area is confined, we can insert the bit into the screwdriver, and now we can remove or attach any fastener in confined spaces. So this is the bottom of that coolant line, and now we can remove the fastener. So now we're going to remove the idler pulley for the supercharger, and it's held on with a T50 fastener. Now, although this is currently in the service position, you can see how much forward this has tilted. There's still not a lot of room here. In fact, I cannot even fit my ratchet. So I'll have to use the serpentine belt tool to loosen this fastener. So I will need to purchase a very, very thin ratchet for the future. This is not ideal, but it's a Craftsman. I don't think it will break. And these are roughly 30 foot-pounds from the factory. And it does break it loose quite easily. Now, I had a comment in the last video that you don't really need to set this in a service position to replace the bearings, but let me show you why you really need to. Look how long this fastener is. Look at this. Imagine if this was tilted in its normal position. Look at this. Can hardly get this out. Ugh. Crazy, crazy. Now we're going to remove the tensioner for the main drive belt. In other words, the belt that runs the water pump, power steering pump, and the AC compressor. Now, we need an offset wrench for this part. Right here, as you can see, we still have the coolant lines, but they're loose, running to the supercharger, okay? And you'll find a 17mm adapter right here. So you're placing the wrench on this adapter and turning the wrench clockwise. So clockwise rotation, and we should be able to remove the belt here. Okay, and then this again being the tensioner, there's a little plastic cover, and right here is the fastener that holds on the tensioner. Now, just like the idler pulley, it's a T50 adapter, and because the space is so limited, it's unorthodox, but I'm using the serpentine belt removal tool to loosen up this fastener. Okay. There it is. And then the last bit is just removing the idler for the main accessory belt. Now, just like before, there's just a cover on these. Don't lose them because you'll need to reinstall it. And the new one. And fortunately, we have enough room to fit our ratchet. And then, to give us that extra leverage, socket along with an extension. Okay, makes for a super long handle. Just make sure you're firmly on there. Hold on. So a small 8mm ratcheting wrench makes really good usage in a tight spot like this. So if this is your first time doing something like this, it may seem like you need a lot of tools, but trust me, you'll use these tools over and over again on many, many different vehicles, or even if you just work on your own vehicle. Okay, there we go. So a quick recap. We have the drive belt for the main accessory and the drive belt for the supercharger, both off. The tensioner for the main accessory belt, that is off. The idler pulley for the supercharger and the idler pulley for the main accessory belt. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. Now regarding the tensioner for the supercharger, I am leaving as is. It's rolling perfectly fine, but really the part is on back order. So I have to leave it where it is, but if you need to remove it, it's just like all these other accessories. T50, fastener, break it loose, comes right off, no big deal. So now we can reinstall everything and we'll be all set. So the new tensioner for the main drive belt, if you want to torque these, it's only 31 foot-pounds, so do not overdo it on these. And now the idler for the main belt. Don't forget your dust caps. So now we're going to install a brand new drive belt, and I'll include a diagram showing precisely the routing of the belt. It's a little hard to get everything on camera, but once again, everything is routed correctly. And the new tensioner has a pin. Gosh, let me see if I can get this on camera. Right here, see this pin? You pull the pin and it sets up the tension perfectly for the new belt. Now the pin is a little hard to remove. I just have a vice grip on the pin. Really hard to get this on camera. It's so tight working on this car. And then just try to, there you go. And then lastly, we have the idler for the supercharger. Supercharger belt. So we have the belt for the supercharger reinstalled, and now is the time to triple check everything. So it's getting rather late here. I'm just going to speed this up, reinstall the bumper, but this is what it takes. It's a good sized job, but it's worth it. Okay, so here goes nothing. Okay, so we're in good shape. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.